What is the it factor in business? Think about this. Why is it that two people can start at the exact same time, read the same books, seek out the same mentors, buy the same courses, and yet 5 years later, one is thriving in their business and the other is barely scraping by, like stuck? Recently, I asked a group of highly successful online business entrepreneurs this exact question. And the answers came back incredibly clear. And there were two things that stood out beyond anything else. And these are two things that I believe are the it factor in business. If you can master these two things, you will succeed. It's pretty much a guarantee. And those two things are belief and action. In online business, if you don't believe, you just won't take action. You won't do the things necessary to win. You won't work hard enough. You won't work long enough. You won't iterate because you, at your core, don't believe that success is for you. Now, on the other side, if you do believe that you're going to be successful, you will take action. Belief and action are completely connected. If you believe at your core that there is no way that failure is an option and that success is your only path, then you'll do the work, you'll iterate, you'll keep tweaking until something works, and then you'll double down on that thing, and you will find a way. It will work because you'll make it work. Belief fuels action. So if I had to put this into a framework, I would say belief leads to action, which leads to results. But the problem is a lot of people never get to results because they don't actually have belief. This first step is incredibly important. Without it, you don't get action and you don't get results. We're gonna break this video down into two parts. Number one, we're gonna build the muscle of belief. Think about belief like a muscle that has to be worked out, and that if you don't use it, you'll lose it. And number two, we're gonna look at how to take massive action. We're gonna look specifically about how to do the right things at the right time in the right way to get results. So let's start with number one, belief. Belief, like I said, is a muscle, and muscles have to be worked. The way muscles work, and I know this because I go to the gym, you may not be able to tell, but I'm in the gym literally every day except for Sunday. I'm there 6 days a week. When you work out in the gym, essentially what you're doing is you're putting pressure on your muscles. You're putting stress and strain on your muscles, and they actually break down, they tear, they rip, so that proteins can come in. This is why it's important to drink protein or eat protein if you're lifting. Proteins come in and they rebuild that muscle and it comes back stronger. So the next time you go to the gym to work that same muscle a few days later, you are stronger. You can lift more, you can lift longer. You're basically cashing in on the deposit you made a few days earlier on your muscles. So how does this translate into business? There's a book that I really like called The Gap and the Gain, and it's by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. And in this book, they talk about the gap between where you are and where you want to be. So for example, I'm building my business to $100,000 a month. I want to build a $1.2 million per year one-person business. Well, right now, my business is making $25,000 a month. So I'm only 1/4 of the way to $100,000 a month. And it's a bit frustrating because I've been at this same level for about a year and a half. And my business has actually grown faster in the past, but it's not grown as fast right now. So it's easy for me to look at the gap between where I am and where I want my business to be and only see loss. Just to say, I stink. I'm not making $100,000 a month. I'm only making 1/4 of what my goal is. I stink. That's the gap. Now, the gain, because the book's called The Gap and the gain is where I am now compared to where I came from. So where did I start? I started at 0. And before I got to $25,000 a month, I had a lot of iterations of making $500 a month and then making $1,000 and then making $1,500 and then being like, oh my gosh, I finally broke $1,000. I'm making $1,500 and then $3,500 and then $5,000 and then $10,000 and on to where now $25,000 a month is normal to me. Well, if I'm only looking at the gap, I miss the gain. I don't even see that like I've been successful in a pretty massive way. And so one of the ways that I actually build the muscle of belief is to look back and see how far I've come, to say, I put in the work, I did the things, and I was successful. And I'm more successful now than I ever imagined at one point. It's just that as entrepreneurs, we tend to move the goalpost. And so I'm looking ahead and I'm saying, I need to be more successful than I am. So I'm only seeing the gap. But to build the muscle of belief, I have to look back and say, look what I've done. And I'm guessing if you're watching a video like this on the it factor in business, you probably have a track record that is bigger and longer than you give yourself credit for. You could probably look back and see some pretty massive gains. And it's not always monetarily, right? You may just be new to business, but you might have accomplished some things and done some hard things in your life that if you looked back and gave yourself the proper credit for those things, you would be able to admit like, wow, I've come a long way. That builds the muscle of belief. And belief is going to be incredibly important as we move forward in this video, because you're going to find out that if you don't believe, you won't succeed. It just works that way. One entrepreneur that I asked this question, highly successful entrepreneur, makes a couple $1,000,000 a year, 2 very successful multi-7-figure businesses. Here's what he had to say. It's their beliefs and identity. Strategies and tactics won't do anything for someone who can't imagine themselves as successful. Belief shifting has to happen first. So he says beliefs and identity. Who you believe yourself to be is everything. So do you believe that you are the kind of person who is going to be successful? Do you believe that you're the kind of person who has what it takes to be successful? Belief isn't about fake hype, it's about identity. At its core, belief is who we believe ourselves to be. And as a Christian, my identity is found in Jesus. I believe that I am a child of God and that He has given me a purpose here on this earth. And so as I do my work day to day, I do it for Him. And part of my belief that fuels me is to say, I want to do the best that I can with all God's given me to fulfill His calling. So what is the motivation for you? What do you believe yourself to be? Who do you believe yourself to be? Because if you can't see yourself as successful, you won't do the things. Remember, belief and action. If I believe, I will act. And if I don't believe, I will not act. So some questions to think this through. Do you see yourself as a successful entrepreneur? Like, you may not even be a successful entrepreneur yet in terms of like maybe how much money you're making. That's a relative thing, because I feel very successful sometimes at $25,000 a month and like a failure at other times. So take that with a grain of salt. But do you see yourself, in most cases, in most times, when you're putting your head on your pillow at night, do you see yourself as successful, as a successful entrepreneur? Can you imagine your future self living in that reality? I live in Santa Rosa Beach, Florida, 30A. It's a very nice area right on the northwest coast of Florida, the Emerald Coast. It's a beautiful place to live. And there is a lot of successful people here, a lot of very expensive houses and real estate. And sometimes I will drive the coastal highway, it's called 30A, and I will look at the people and the houses and the lifestyle, and I will think to myself, I belong here. I know that sounds like so woo-woo, and I'm not a woo-woo kind of guy, but I want to reinforce in my mind that I'm not an imposter. I belong here, right? So what is it for you that you say, I want to see myself as successful in the future, and I'm successful right now? This is a massive, massive shift that you have to make. And I am one of those people who tends to lean on, well, it's probably, it's not going to work, or here are the challenges, because I almost want to get out ahead of it and try to figure out, like, how do I put up some defenses so that I'm convinced myself and the people around me that, like, I'm ready to fail. Like, I'll give you an example. So AI is taking over the world, right? AI is just this thing that is exploding. We barely even scratched the surface of it. I've done a whole lot of content about it. And sometimes if I'm, being negative and being doomsday, I will lay there in bed at night and I will go, it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time until it takes everything we have from us. It's like, oh man, it's going to replace coaches and creators, and it's just going to suck. And the problem with that is if I believe that, if I allow myself to believe that, it will impact my actions, and the results I get will be a business that fails. And it won't be AI's fault. It will be my fault. Do you understand that? Like, I have to remember, like, I can be doomsday all day, or I can say there's new opportunities. There's new ways of doing business. There's new ways of reaching people. There's new ways of connecting people. There's new ways of showing people how to do the thing that I do. I've got to be out ahead of this, so I'm not completely oblivious to it, but I can't be afraid of it, because at the end of the day, I believe that I'm successful, and I believe that I deserve to be successful, and that I'm gonna be successful. And then the third question is, do you catch yourself believing that you're gonna be a successful entrepreneur before the results show up? And I will say there was a time when I was much better at this. I just had this belief, like, this business is going to get to $100,000 a month within a certain period of time. And it was as real as the morning sun rising and shining on my face. I could feel it. I could touch it. And I think recently, because the business has sat still for a little bit in terms of just the revenue it's making, it's been steady, and I'm very thankful for that. But because it's sat still and hasn't been growing as aggressively as it has in the past, I've found myself doubting. I found myself going, oh, I don't know. Maybe I don't have what it takes. Maybe I'm not good at this. Maybe I'm just destined to kind of like not be a successful business person. What business do I have teaching other people this stuff? Like, these are the things that will creep into my mind. The problem with that is nothing has actually changed other than my belief. The business is doing the numbers that it's done. It has grown in the way that it's grown. It has a trajectory of growth in the future. So nothing's changed. Nothing materially has changed. And yet, I will allow myself to believe a false narrative, something that isn't actually true. I don't know if you can relate to that, but there are 3 ways that I have found that you can build belief. And here they are. Number 1, borrow belief. Number 2, stack small wins. And number 3, shift identity. So borrowing belief. What I love about the idea of borrowing belief is that you can surround yourself with people who have succeeded in a way that you want to succeed, and then their success normalizes that kind of life for you. I'll give you an example of what I mean. So before I moved to Florida, I lived in Tennessee. I lived in a suburb of Knoxville. Entrepreneurship, like online business, was not a thing that a lot of people did. There were some, but it was very, very rare. And so when I would talk to people, guys that I lifted weights with, people that I went to church with, and I would talk about what I was doing with my business, some people understood it, but a lot of people were like, I don't really get that. And you may relate to this. Like, if you're starting an online business or running an online business, you may be trying to explain it to people who are like, what are you talking about? Because even today, it's still, to some people, is a little bit like remarkable that you can do this, that you can get online, you can make content, you can sell courses, you can sell coaching, you can put people in a community, and you can make a living. And not everybody understands it yet, which is fine. But then I moved to Florida, and immediately I realized, like, wow, I am surrounded in this area by people who are doing the same business model that I'm doing. In other words, they're taking something that they know and like a skill that they have, an experience they have, they're getting online, they're making content about that experience and knowledge, and then they're inviting people to go deeper with them, and through paid products, coaching, consulting, courses, community, affiliate products, books, etc. I've found people over and over and over. I even connected in this network of people who are like that. I have a group of guys that I meet with from time to time who we all do this. My neighbor, 6 houses down, 23 years old, making $67,000 a month. A month. And what I love about that is sometimes I find myself borrowing belief from those people. I will find myself going, well, my gosh, like if my buddy Clay, who's 23, can make $67,000 a month, I should be able to make $50,000 a month, at 40 years old. I should be able to make 67. I should be able to make $100,000 a month. Dang it. And not only should I, but I will, right? So I've borrowed belief. I have normalized other people's success. And I've said, I'm around these people. It's normal to me. I'm going to also be successful in that way. One of the guys that I lift weights with has an online business, makes about $130,000 a month. And he's in his early to mid 30s. So again, also younger than me because I'm 40. I may not look it. I know I look 39, but I'm 40. And so borrowing belief is huge. Now, the second thing is stacking small wins. Every lead, every piece of content, every customer is proof that you can do this. You have to collect and you have to celebrate those reps. You have to say, like, I've done it and here's the product, here's the result. And you have to be able to know, to point back to that. Like, what have you put together? What have you done? This is why taking action is so important, because you won't have any wins if you don't take action. But again, we're talking about belief. And then number 3 is shifting identity. Instead of saying something like, I'm trying to start a business, say, I'm a business owner or I'm an entrepreneur. And as an entrepreneur, I'm starting this business. You see the difference? One is a struggle, right? I'm trying to become this thing. The other one is I am this thing, and because of what I am, I'm doing this thing. So again, belief is like a muscle. The more you work it, the more you strain it, the stronger it becomes. Now we're going to talk about action, and action is what flows from belief. Before I get to action, I want to give you something, a free gift to you for being here, for lasting this long in the video. LaneSebring.com/super simple. This is my super simple guide to starting a thriving online business. These are the 6 steps that I used, the 6 steps that I took to build a multiple 6-figure business that makes $25,000 a month. It will demystify this whole process for you and give you a framework to move forward and be successful starting your thriving online business. Okay, so if one part of the equation is belief, the second part is action, because belief fuels actions. We talked all about belief, but what does it look like to take action? One entrepreneur that I asked this big question, what is the it factor in business? The way he answered the question, the real difference maker is obsession, extreme ownership, acting like if this thing works or fails, it's on me and no one else. So his take was, if you're going to be successful in business, it's going to be the result of action, of massive action. I've often talked about in online business how execution or action, just another way of saying it, is really the difference maker. And it took me a while to understand the role that belief plays, which is why we spent so much time on belief, because I used to just say execution is it. Execution is all that matters. You just have to do the work. And that is true, but if it's not motivated by a proper identity and belief, you won't see it through to the end. Because what it looks like to take massive action, to be obsessed about your business, and to have extreme ownership in the results of the business is you have to put more shots on goal. Like, you have to just take the shots. And this is going to result in you making more mistakes. And as you make mistakes, you have to just iterate and try different things the next time. Well, if you don't believe that you're going to be successful and you've done something that's resulted in a mistake being made, you can see how this could easily turn into some pretty negative self-talk. Like, this could turn into self-talk where you're saying, what am I even doing? I'm making these mistakes. I'm not really good at this, because you don't truly believe. And so I used to just say, just take the action, just do the thing, without really understanding that doing the thing is good, believing is just as important, and these two things have to have each other. Like, I have to believe it, and that belief is going to result in action. Action without belief is just temporary effort. Action with belief is a massively powerful thing in my business that leads to results. And when it comes to action, you don't just want it. You believe it so deeply at your core that you will not take failure as an option, like ultimate failure. You'll take failures along the way, like mistakes, but ultimate failure of your business, ultimate failure of you as an entrepreneur is just not an option. When I was at Kajabi Hero Live in California last year, I was talking to a good friend of mine. His name's Zan. He comments on the channel a lot. Zan, if you're watching, I love you. Thank you for the comments that you leave. Zan was talking to me and Graham Cochran and Justin Welsh. And the three of us, Justin and Graham and I, were standing there, and Zan asked us three this question. And he kind of lumped me in with Justin and Graham, which I thought was a massive compliment, because I look at Justin and Graham as like these kings in business. And so Zan asked all three of us this same question. He said, "You guys have all been successful. Let me ask you this question," which I was very humbled that he included me in that question. But he said, "When did you know that you were going to be successful? Like, when did you know?" He asked me, he asked Graham, he asked Justin. We're all standing there. And I jumped right in. I didn't even have to think about it. I didn't even have to like wonder, like, when did I know? What I said was, I said, you know what? For me, having a job, like a 9 to 5, go to work every day, answer to a boss, freaking paid time off, and having to ask someone permission to not come in today or go pick up my kids from school, like that is just not an option anymore at this stage of my life ever again. I did that kind of thing for 15 years. 15 years I answered to a boss. 15 years I went in 9 to 5. 15 years I lost sleep over whether or not my boss liked me enough. Like 15 miserable years. Not completely miserable. There were some good things about it. But in terms of the arrangement that you have in a job, I did that for 15 years and I freaking hated it. To me, it feels like a prison. It feels like I'm trapped. Am I ever going to get out? Is retirement the only way? Like, it's just a miserable existence for me. And it's not that way for everybody. And I totally get that. Like, you may just be wanting to start an online business as a side hustle to make a few $100 extra a month or a few $1,000 extra a month to help with certain things. But you love your job. You're comfortable with your job. You're successful in your job. That's awesome. I'm happy for you. But that's not the case for me. So when Zan asked this question, Justin Welsh and Graham Cochran and I are standing there, and I just said, failure was not an option. Like going back to a job, ain't gonna happen. So like I just had to make this work. I was like, come heck or high water, this thing is going to work. I just got to figure out how. And so the belief was, I'm not going to fail. I can't, I won't. And the action that resulted was massive action, lots and lots of iteration, doubling down on what works, letting go of what doesn't, repeat. That's it. And as I've coached people, what I've seen is that if someone does this, if someone takes on the belief that they're going to be successful, the desire, like they want it and they're willing to go after it. They don't just like the idea, oh, it'd be nice to be an entrepreneur and not have like a schedule imposed on you and have some passive income coming in and be able to live where you want, be location independent. Like they don't just think that's a neat idea, because you can think that's a neat idea until you're blue in the face, but that's not going to actually result in that life for you. You have to believe it and you have to take action. So for me, that belief led to some pretty massive action and some risk. I left my job. I left my job really before my business was making enough to live on full time. But I knew that if I had the time to put into it, that it would grow. And that's a bet that I placed on myself with the help of my wife. I wouldn't have left my job had my wife not been so encouraging and supportive of me, and if she hadn't believed in me the way that she did. The lesson there is, if you're single, marry someone who is going to believe in you and the business that you're creating, or it won't work. This is especially true if you're a dude. It's especially true because the burden, at least in my family, the privilege of providing, the burden of providing monetarily, providing for our needs, paying our bills is on me. And so I would not have left as miserable as I was, as freaking miserable as I was, I just wouldn't have left my job. I wouldn't have done it yet. I would have waited. I would have still tried to work on this in the morning, before work, at night, on the weekends, and I would have held on to a job that I wasn't really into anymore. My heart wasn't in it. And so it would have resulted had I stayed in really a failed business. I would have probably failed. So because both I believed in myself and my wife believed in me, and failure was not an option, I took the right actions. Which is why sometimes it's frustrating when people ask, like, when can you leave your job? When is it okay to leave your job? And the answer is there's never a good time. Like, there's never a good time to leave your, unless you're making like $1 million a year in your business, then of course, yeah, you leave your job. But somewhere between making nothing and making $1 million a year, there's always going to be this kind of like, is this the right time? And sometimes, let's say in your job, you make $100,000 a year, and in your business, you've gotten it up to $60,000 a year. You're making $5,000 a month. You're not making as much as you're making in your job, but you're making enough probably to go full time, because the difference in the time that you're spending on your job that you could pour into your business to grow it faster is probably going to outpace that $100,000 pretty quick. So you never know what the right time is, but you have to be willing to take action, whether it's risk, whether it's just doing the things that you know are going to work because you've done the work to train yourself, to take the right kind of courses, to get in the right circles, to get the right coaching, where you know, like, this is going to work if I just do it. And I believe it's going to happen. Like, you have to have obsession about your business, and not just obsession like I'm going to hustle and work and grind. That's not my style. Like, I don't do that. Never have. But what I do in the business is intentional and it matters. And I refuse to fail. And so I'm always thinking and tweaking and tinkering with, like, what if I tried this? Okay, it's not what I thought. Didn't really work. Let's try this. Let's try this over here. Okay, this is really working. Let's double down on that. Oh, this seems to be really helping people. People are responding to that. Oh, okay, let me try this. Well, people aren't really responding to that. So it's dynamic, right? This is a business. There's a market out there that you're marketing to. You're selling your business to them, and market demands shift, things change, and you got to be dynamic. You got to stay on top of that. That requires action. And so the question is, like, are you willing to have action? The truth is, if you have belief, action becomes inevitable. Like, if I truly believe that I'm going to be successful, I cannot help but take action. I have to, because to not take action would be to deny my own identity as a successful entrepreneur. Like, why would I not? Because when you know you're going to win, you act like it. So this guy that I know who's 23, who makes $67,000 a month, I sent him a text one day. It was actually an audio message. I was like in this weird space, I don't know if you ever get in these like weird headspaces where you're just like, everything I've built, it's all going to crumble and everything's going to just go all to heck in a handbasket. Like, it's just all going to go away tomorrow. And I don't even know why I'm trying, because, I got lucky. And I sent him this voice memo, and I just said, man, do you ever look at your success and think, this is so fickle, it's all going to go away. Like, I can't rely on this. And I was just having this like crash out, where I was like, man, I'm just in this weird place where I don't know if this is going to continue working. And there's no reason for me to believe this. Let me just say that. There's no material reason. It's literally just mindset, which is why I'm talking about this, because belief is so important. And one of the things he said to me is, and this is a guy, 23 years old, making $67,000 a month. He said, it will work because you'll make it work. It will work because you'll make it work. I have hung on those words. I have literally hung on those words. I have thought through them. I have said them to myself. It will work because I'll make it work. Now, I believe that there's like a divine power here. Like, it's not just me in my own effort trying to make this work. I believe that there's a divine element where God is working through me. Like, my strength comes from the Lord. So it will work as God gives me strength, and I tap into that. But also, I believe at a very, very deep and real level that I'm going to be successful, and that this project, the Lane Sebring business, will work, because I'm not going to not let it work. And I want to try to translate that to you. In your business, do you believe that you're successful right now already. You're successful. You're successful because of the experiences that you've had, because of the things that you have been exposed to, the things that you know, the things that you believe, the things that you've done and accomplished. You are successful. And will you take action on the things that will guarantee success in the future? Will you go to lanesebring.com/super simple to get that free guide to get started? Some of you should go to lanesebring.com/fastlane to get started in six-figure fast lane, to really kickstart your business in a massive way, not just kind of piddle, but to take the course, the complete system on how to build a thriving online business that will set you free from your 9-to-5, because you believe, you know, you're going to be successful and you're willing to take the action. That's the step for some of you. For others of you, you may have all the information that you need, but you need to take action on the things that you need to do. So the question I have is, do you truly believe? At your core, do you believe? And if you don't, what kind of identity shift needs to happen? Do you need to borrow somebody's belief? If you need to borrow my belief, please do. I was a poor kid from Oklahoma. My dad was a janitor. My mom worked at Walmart, and they never made more than about $20,000 in a year. And somehow I was able to succeed in a way that makes them very proud of me. And in a way that I look back at when I was 10 and 12 years old and 16 and always insecure about money, always freaking so mad that we were poor because it was embarrassing, because my teeth got jacked up from falling on my bike and then we couldn't fix it and my teeth were all discolored and the kids made fun of me and called me the kid with jacked up teeth. And our house sometimes didn't have air conditioning and the appliances would break, and then we just wouldn't have a dryer for 6 months, and then our cars wouldn't run, so we'd have to walk sometime. All this stuff made me so mad. Mad. People who say that money doesn't buy happiness have never truly been poor. Because if you've been poor, you know that there's a certain amount of money that can buy happiness. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you should love money, because the love of money is the root of all evil. And I'm not saying that money makes you happy. But what I am saying is that to have nothing sucks to high heaven. It just does. It is awful. And so when I look back at myself when I was 10 years old, 12 years old, 16, 17, 18, and I see how far I was able to come, because even back then I said, I am going to be successful. I am not going to live this way. And that's not a commentary on my parents. They did the best they could. They worked very hard. They dealt with the circumstances that they were in very well. But I just had this belief from a very early age that I am not meant for this life. I'm meant for more. So my encouragement to you is, do you believe that you're meant for more? And if you are, then let that belief turn into action. Act on that belief. You will not regret it. My name's Lane Sebring. This is my channel. Subscribe if you enjoyed this. Like this video. Leave me a comment and let me know the action that you're going to take and what belief it's based on. I can't wait to hear from you in the comments. I'll see you in the next video.